Hello and welcome to Football League World TV. I am Billy Mulley and today I'm joined by Luton fan Ian Robertson for our Luton debate show, where we'll be discussing the top 5 strikers to ever wear a Luton shirt. First of all, Ian, how are you doing? And good luck to you, because it's quite a difficult one to name just 5.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Just getting over COVID actually, but we crack on. It is a difficult job to pick five Luton strikers of all time, really. Obviously, you've got a mix of sentiment from my choices and a mix of who really you have to pick based on the division they're in and, you know, playing for England, such like. So without giving too much away, but yeah, it's a hard choice, really hard choice, and there was quite a few on the subs bench that could have maybe made the grade that aren't in the top 5. So
yeah, as we were speaking about there's been a lot of good strikers at Luton Town, making it hard to nail it down to just 5. As you say, there's a few on the bench, so we'll probably get into those as well as we progress. First of all, though, if you are new around here and you like what you see today, then please subscribe to Football League World TV and also share this video if you do enjoy it on social media too. Also, Luton fans, get your lists in and other championship clubs and EFL clubs. If you support any of them, then please also get in contact if there's any Luton players that you've come up against who have been unplayable or mentioned, then please do get in touch. But first, we'll go into your first pick, Ian. So first pick here, Ian, you've gone down for Mick Harford. He's recently done a podcast with Luton Town, and it wasn't short of what we expected. It was brilliant to hear some of the stories and some insight to what it was like playing for Luton at that time. But going back to Harford himself and what he'd done as a striker in a Luton shirt, what sort of draws you to him as an immediate pick?
I think he just animates what it is to be a Luton Town player, really. You know, real tough cookie, knew how to score, knew how to draw players out. He's a very intelligent player, which I don't think many people give him the credit for. But he was just so strong, such a good player. Obviously, he played for England as well, played in the Premiership. And as rightly said on the Luton Town podcast, he could have played for Man United. If Pleat had said yes and let him go to Man United, I don't think he'll admit it, but probably one of his regrets that he didn't. You know, could have gone much further than he did. But I think out of all the Luton Town strikers, he's the one that's obviously got the club the most. You know, taking apart his career over Luton. Obviously, firstly, he was a fantastic striker for us. Got us through some pivotal games when he was a player in cups and divisions, and even when he didn't play for us, you know, keeping us up against Derby, you know. So I don't think I could not put him in first place, really. I'd have been for the high jump over every other Luton fan if I hadn't done. But yeah, it's such a fantastic, and he is a legend for Luton Town. There's no other striker that could be up there number 1 for me, personally. For me.
Yeah, and as you say there about Mick Harford, obviously done a lot as a striker in terms of his intelligence, his knack of scoring goals. One thing that a lot of players do say about Mick Harford, about sort of pundits now during their playing days, is about how tough he was and perhaps the toughest player in sort of the 80s and early 90s as well. So what else draws you to him? Because as we said there, it is a lot about his physicality, his intelligence, but he was really a striker that had everything.
Yeah, definitely. He's, you know, one of the best we've had with the header of the ball, and that's been shown. You know, he's passed that down a little bit to Adebayo. You know, over the last 6 months, he's coached him well. I know he's not coaching him at the moment, but his header of the ball is a good on both feet. I just think, he was a good all-round player for us. But the thing that made him that top-tier level was his determination, his heart, and, that all-round Luton spirit that he really got the club. And I think that gave him that extra level above the rest of the strikers that I've put in this list.
Definitely a real Luton legend. And, of course, he's gone on to manage us as well, lead us to the Championship, which was another really positive experience when you come to think of Mick Harford and Luton and that sort of relationship that's blossomed in the last how many years it has been. We'll go on to your second pick now. So, Ian, for your second pick, you've gone for Brian Stein. Obviously scored the vital goal in Luton's Littlewood Cup triumph in 1988. A player that Harford described on the When the Town podcast as having a bit more flair and being completely different to him in that kind of respect. So, what else draws you to him? And another player that we can say was international level. He was top of his game when he was at Luton Town.
He was, and I think for some, he might not be quite as high up on the list as second, but he had that skill on him. He could come out the wing and cut in really well. He could also, he linked in well between midfield and the forward play. He linked in so well. He could see a pass and just cut 3 or 4 people out. That's like he says, that little bit of flair, that little bit of edge to get a ball in or take us forward instead of running with the ball. He could just see a pass. His skill was one of the things that put him up there for me. Technically a very, very good player. And again, like you say, he could have gone on to a high level and should have got more England caps just like McArthur did. Real tragedy, really, that neither of them got as many caps as they should have got. But Brian Stein, technically was an exceptional player.
Yeah, and as you say, they're an exceptional technical player in terms of his goal contributions as well. Scored lots of goals, some very important goals, as we discussed there, about in the 1998 Littlewoods Cup final, and an 11-year stay as well. So in that respect, Mr. Luton Town up to nearly 400 appearances. So with Stein and the players of Mick Harford and that kind of calibre, did you expect Luton to sort of challenge European places back then? When those two were in the side, do you expect Luton to be sort of challenging high up in the division? I know 7th was probably the all-time best finish, but do you think did you expect more basically in terms of league finishes?
I think so, because they were a together group, obviously led by David Pleat for most parts, but that 7th finish was under Mr. Luton Town, John Moore, wasn't it? Who again was such a evoking character, and I think pushed all the players on that year to get that position. I think it was stated in the podcast the other day. It was such a together group, and technically the whole squad were very, very good. And I don't really, because of the states of the pitches there, you couldn't really tell as much. But not a surprise for me. I think had we not been banned from Europe, we could have done okay. We certainly wouldn't have embarrassed ourselves, and I think we would have done well.
Of course, if there are any Luton fans or any other clubs, if you're watching this, then please feel free to get in contact. You can critique, you can share your support for these selections, you can do whatever you want, just get involved and have your say. But for now, we'll go on to Ian's third pick. So your third pick is a player that was perhaps a little bit before the rest that we've selected on this list. Malcolm MacDonald played for Luton between 1969 and 1971. Quite a short stint compared to some of the other names on this list, but there's no denying he was an excellent goal scorer.
Yeah, I think not only that, he's very athletic. Obviously, he was before mine and your time, but obviously doing a lot of research over the years as a Luton supporter, we've watched games and read about him and listened to our parents and our grandparents tell us stories about him. And then you've got to look at his record, not just for us, but for Newcastle and his brief stint for England. Obviously, he was a very, very good goal scorer and extremely quick, which is obviously why they called him Superman. I think I couldn't have got away with not putting him in the list, and I think that was a justifiable position for him. Again, he's one of them guys I would have loved to have seen play, and I think we let him go too cheaply when we did. We could have kept hold of him then instead of him going to Newcastle, but I don't think anyone would have begrudged him going to Newcastle, obviously being his boyhood club, and I think he only lives around the corner from there now, so I think that was a justifiable position for him, and I'd love to have seen him play.
Definitely, yeah, I join you with that in terms of wishing that I could have seen him play, a player that, as you say, we hear stories about how good he was, about being one of the best players to operate on the last shoulder of a defender that there has been at the club, probably ever since he was playing at Kenilworth Road. So in that respect, yeah, I wish I did get to see him play. 58 goals in 101 games, a prolific record over those 2 years with the club. And one thing that he went for £180,000 back in 1971, which, to be fair, it was quite a lot of money back then. And as you say, is that kind of offer, you can't really turn that down, can you?
Not a club of our size, no. And I think, given the club it was, I think you could never really have turned him away from that. And he had to go, really. But it was, again, it would have been great to see players like him play and Frenchie and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think it's a good position for him to be in.
Well, we'll go from one prolific source of goals to another with your next choice. Ian, your next choice was Steve Howard, best known for operating in Leagues One and the Championship with Luton during a 5-year spell. Just short of 100 goals in just over 200 games. Very prolific record he had at Luton Town, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And I think, again, although his goal scoring record was exceptional, he's one of them sentimental ones, I think. So I must have been the age of 18, 19, 20 when he was around. So obviously he went to pretty much all the games. And he was just... You could always count on him to score. We went through that run in League One where it was so many games unbeaten. We knew we were going to win every single game, which went in with so much confidence. Obviously, it helped with the assists from Burko and Robbo and stuff like that, but he was just so prolific. And he was a good character on the pitch as well. He always wanted that little bit more. You knew he was like a dog with a bone. He was never going to let go unless he got that place. And I don't know if it was his debut or his second game for us against York City. And he missed 2 penalties and then ended up going off because he wanted to score that much, but missed one and had an argument with our players and then missed it again, which is typical against York, really. But yeah, such a good character, and obviously went in for good things after us as well. It wasn't just at Luton, but a good goal scorer, technically very good as well. You could tell up against better players, even when we played Liverpool in that game, he could turn a player. He had a bit of pace about him, and he could score a goal under pressure. So it wasn't just Championship and League One where he really thrived. So you could tell he had more potential than above us. So yeah, really good player, and one that's I've seen a lot of goals from him and a lot of celebrations. So again, that's a sentiment one that.
As you said there, it could have been a career cut short at Luton with that York game, obviously taking the penalty off trusted penalty takers and sort of not reacting in the best way, but went on to score lots of goals and impact on loads of games. And as you say, he was a player that had the power, had the heading ability, had the intelligence to operate at Championship level. And obviously, he left in 2006, which was quite a tough time for Luton, financially speaking. So if that wasn't the case and Howard was still at the club, would you have been confident that Premier League football was round the corner?
That's a very good question, I think probably with the team, yes, with the ownership and the situation that was going on, I think if it wasn't that, it'd have been something else. And I think we weren't in a stable enough position to kind of push on. I don't think it was weird because it was after the Leeds game we'd won 5-1, and obviously Sol Davis had that incident before the Reading game, and And it kind of all went downhill from there, really, and everything kind of spiraled. But obviously, things behind the scenes weren't great. But our football on the pitch, I think that had a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction to our decline down. And I don't know, difficult one, really. I don't think we would have made it that time. I think we were in a decent position because of the football on the pitch, but we didn't have everything in the background to kind of push on. And I think something would have come a cropper at some point if it wasn't the situation then. So, and I think, we owed it to him after a few years of success for him to go on anyway, like the likes of Curtis Davis, him and everybody else. So I think it was a firm no on that. I don't think we would have done. We were close on, the optimism there when I was at that age, I think was always there, and the football was absolutely fantastic. Some of the football we were playing was fantastic. I just don't think we quite had it to get it over the line.
Okay, we'll come on to your fifth and final choice. So in your last choice, in terms of the five that you've given me, I know you've got a couple on the bench that we'll get to in a little bit, but you've gone for John Hartson. Obviously went on to have an excellent career after his Luton career. 19 years old when he left. He went on to play for Arsenal and progressed very well after departing Kenilworth Road. So when you first saw John Hartson as sort of a 16-year-old coming through the ranks and getting his first shot at professional football, how high did you think his ceiling was?
Again, he was a different class. So I was at about 10 or 11 at the time, and we were having the run in 94. Yeah, picture there, and he was just a different class. He used to come on, and his speed and his intelligence, you could just tell we were not going to keep him for long. And he was one of, I was gutted when he left, as a 10-year-old, and seeing what he was producing on the pitch, how fast and how good he was. Obviously gutted to see him go, but you could tell he was just a few tiers above in terms of quality, and that told when Arsenal came in for him. Obviously, I don't think a lot of Luton fans would have put him fifth on the list, and that's fair enough. But, obviously he was always going to be one of our top strikers, but fifth might be a bit high for some. But for me, it's a sentimental reason, as well as the goals that he scored. He had a good record, but also just the career that he went on to. If he had stayed with us, I think, we could have gone on to push a bit more on to where we were. Certain players that left in that era after Pleat left, kind of reduced our foundations in the Championship, or at that point. So but he was such a good, intelligent player. You knew he was going to breeze past 3 or 4 players and get a shot on target. You could always count on him. The confidence was so high with him, but he was a great player, and it was such a shame that he wasn't with us as long as he maybe should have been. But obviously we needed the money at that point.
Yeah, you said about needing the money at that point. It was around £2.5 million that Luton let him go for. Thinking back to how good he was and how high you saw the ceiling, did you think that was a figure that was maybe too high, too shallow? Was that a figure that you sort of felt was justified for a player of his quality?
No, wholly justified. I think that shows in his transfer fees after that, and what he went on to achieve. I think at Luton and Arsenal, I think, although he did very well at Celtic, I won't take that away from him, but I think at Luton and Arsenal, you really saw the best version of him. He was so raw, he was so confident, and athletic. He just went past players so easily. He could have gone on to do anything. Fantastic player, and definitely worth the price tag, I think. I don't think any Luton fans would have grumbled at the time, apart from me being 10 years old. But not many would have grumbled at that time for the transfer fee. And I think, he got the move that he probably deserved.
Definitely. Well, that rounds up your 5 selections, all different strikers from across different eras as well, all offering sort of different attributes and traits, which would have made them exciting to see them all in a team together. Where would Nathan Jones go in terms of selection? But yeah, I guess that's nothing that he'd ever have to worry about because of the situation. But you said that there's a couple on the bench, a couple that you weren't.
Yeah, there was There was 4 quite obvious ones that people might have gone for. Paul Walsh obviously had a very good record with us and had a good career. Tony Thorpe, another one I was gutted to see go, and obviously a lot of Luton fans are still gutted to see him gone. You can't take his record away from us, and he always did his best for us. And obviously James Collins, a lot of people of the recent crop of Luton fans probably would have had him on that top 5. But I kind of just had to factor in the divisions that he scored his goals in for us. And obviously Danny Hilton obviously has had a good stab as well. But it's such a hard choice because we've had so many good strikers over the years. But I kind of wanted to collect it from the years I've been watching them and a little bit of the years I haven't been watching them, and some sentimental ones in there. But, like you say, the top 5 are obviously a good crop, but they were the people I kind of and ahed about. Certainly Walshy anyway. Walshy was good. Obviously went on and had a good career. And Thorpe maybe could have shaded it into 5th as well. So
yep, some worthy options there. And one player I'll come to you last is Luton's current striker, Elijah Adebayo. Obviously scored a few goals already this season. This time last year he was playing League 2 football. So I think that just shows the amount he can improve and the fact he's still continuing to improve. He's at a stage in his career where he's 23 years old. Obviously, a lot is going for him at the moment and showing his ability to step up to Championship football. Does that make him a player that could quite easily make this kind of list in the future?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's easy to get excited, isn't it, at the moment with him? I think you just have to look at how quickly he's adapted from League 2 to Championship football to kind of understand that how fast he's learning in this division, how quick he can take things on board. Obviously, he would have benefited a bit from Mick Hartford and his teachings with him. Obviously, Mick's not involved in the day-to-day at the moment, so sooner he's back, the better, I guess. But yeah, I think I was speaking about this with some other people the other day, and I think he's got quite a high ceiling. I think the longer he stays with us, maybe 2 or 3 years, the more he's going to benefit from that. I think, James just in that kind of situation really, and him going to the right club. I think if we can continue on that plan of, he's with us for 3 or 4 years and we develop him and he scores 30, 40 goals in that time or 50 goals in that time. Yes, he's going to be one that's going to potentially be on that list, but also he's going to be, a good asset that's going to bring us in, quite a few £1 million, and we can start again, similar to Brentford. I don't think many Luton fans are thinking, we're keeping all these players that are assets and that they're the ones that's going to get us into the Premiership. I think it's a continuous, conveyor belt and working with them and getting the best out of them, which we obviously are at the moment. But he's such a fantastic player on and off the ball. He's so fast, and the thing that surprised me for his size is how good he is with the ball. He's so quick and he's so good at going in and out of players. I think that was the most surprising thing for me. And he seems to never stop. Similarly to Onyedinma. He just has levels. He just keeps going and going and going. And I don't think we've seen that type of player at Luton for a while. How athletic they are and how confident they are with the ball going up top. Obviously, we've had Cornick that's obviously in that ilk, but to have so many people up top like that at the moment is, it's good.
Certainly a jack of all trades, and it makes it exciting really for Luton fans and excellent for Jones to have at his disposal. And one last thing about Adebayo is that we've spoken there about playing League 2 football. Just last year, Luton picked him up from the non-leagues and he's developed into this player that's taken on the Championship. Jones has come out and said now that a club must have one hell of a checkbook to be able to afford him. Could you see Premier League interest come in for him? Maybe January too soon, but if he continues on this upward trajectory into the rest of the season in the summer, could that be a point for Premier League clubs to start sniffing around?
Well, you can definitely. It depends how good his season goes this year. You can definitely see a Southampton type or someone like that coming in for him and having a cheeky little bid. Obviously, they pay good money for Armstrong, which I don't think you turn your nose up at, but he's not scored anywhere near the goals Armstrong has yet. But I think in terms of his ceiling, is I know it's hard to be not to be biased, but I think his ceiling is probably bigger than Armstrong's for me. A very, very good player. I just think, he's not as far along in his journey as Armstrong is, and I think he's got a long way to go. I think there's much more room for him to grow, which is the exciting thing. I think realistically, you'll be looking probably people start knocking on the door a bit more if it continues like this next year. Maybe in the summer, but maybe the summer after that. I think once you pass like 20 goals, I think most clubs are going to be sniffing about, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah. He's a player that as we keep saying, he's got a very high ceiling, and as I think what you say there, once you start getting past that 20 territory, that's when clubs are very much. That's when you get put in the shop window, basically. That's when clubs really start to take notice and start to watch maybe with a closer eye than they first did. Well, that is it for today's Luton Town Debate Show. 5 very good strikers that you've selected there, Ian. 5 strikers, as we said there, all with different attributes and reasonings for why they have been included. A big thank you to you, and for those that are watching as well. If you've agreed, if you've disagreed, then also make sure to put something down in the comments, and yes, we'll definitely look at those. If you're new, then please do subscribe to Football League World TV and share this video on social media too.